सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुवन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Fourth chapter we saw yesterday the meaning of what is dharma samsthapana and what is the dharma glani that takes place. Going ahead, the Lord says in this chapter that his birth, in the 9th verse he says, Janma karma cha me divyam, that my birth is divine and my actions are divine. Evam yo veti tattvataha, whoever knows the essence of this, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna, that person drops out from this cycle of birth and death and is never and attains moksha, is never born again. So what is the speciality of the birth of the Lord? The speciality is what he said earlier, that though he is unborn, ajopi san avyayatma, though he is unborn, yet he takes a form. And now what is the speciality of his actions? The speciality of his actions is that he establishes dharma. Now one of the ways in which he establishes dharma, we see in shloka number 13. One of the very important shlokas of the Gita. Let us read that verse number 13. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagashaha tasya kartaramapi mam vidya kartaramavyayam. So this is one shloka where Bhagavan explains what is the speciality of his actions, that how does he do dharma samsthapana. So we saw yesterday that dharma samsthapana happens when the vision of oneness is disseminated to more and more people. People get to abide in that vision of oneness. So when we share this knowledge, when we study, when we share this knowledge with more and more people about the oneness, then we are also being instruments of dharma samsthapana. Another way in which there is dharma samsthapana done is that the whole society consists of so many different types of individuals. In any science we will see that when we want to understand anything, first we observe, then we collect the data, then we classify the data, and then we study. We study and then we classify. So when we observe, then we collect the data, we analyze and study the data, and then we classify. Any science works like that. If it is zoology, then all the different types of, so many animals are there, and one sees all of them, and then one observes and gets the data, then classifies, and then say these are reptiles, these are amphibians, these are mammals, and makes that classification. Same way if it is botany, geology, any science. So how to classify human beings now? When we see the whole world, there are different types of human beings. How to classify them? And why should we classify them? So that when we understand a certain type of people, then we know what is the core competency of such people, what are the qualities, attributes of such people, and appropriately one can relate so that there is more harmony. So Bhagavan says here that one system that he made is Chatur Varnyam. He created the fourfold division. Varna literally means, there are different meanings of the word Varna. One meaning of the word Varna is color. Another meaning of Varna is that by which it is described. Varnyate. So what is described? The human beings are described. One who has translated it as caste. That is the reason why one feels that when the moment we say about Hinduism, what comes into the mind is caste system. And the caste system is a blot on the name of Hindu culture. But literally Varna means color. Now how the human beings have been classified? Bhagavan says, I created this caste system. Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam. It is not the creation of the Hindu people. Please remember. That's why he clarifies saying, I created this fourfold division. In the Vedic times, also this is there. If you see the Purusha Suktam, it is said, Brahmano osya mukham asit. The whole Virat Purusha is being described, the cosmic form of the Lord. In that it is said the Brahmanas are the head. Hands, Bahu Rajanya Kritaha, are the Kshatriyas. Uru Tadasya Yad Vaishya, the stomach represent the Vaishya. And the feet represent the Shudras. Adhyagam Shudro Ajayat. Now, can we say any of these parts of the body are lesser than the other? They all are required in the body polity. In any organization, this will be required. There will be thinkers, those who do research, those who make policies. There will be people who are not just, they are not so expert in visionary aspects, but they are very good administrators, executives. There will be people who are very good in managing resources. And there will be people who are plain executors. Straight away they just execute. In any company also you will require. In any family you will require. In an individual's body one will require. So this division, Bhagavan says, how did he divide? He says, Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. On the basis of the Guna and Karma. So what is the meaning of Guna? Guna here means the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Predominantly who is Sattvic is called as a Brahmana. So the person is able to do much more contemplative activities, thinking activity, research, creativity, all that comes to that person very naturally. Predominantly who is Rajasic but has more sattva, so maximum is rajas. Let us say, if we say in a Brahmana it is 80% sattva, 15% rajas, 5% tamas. It's just a division to understand. In a Kshatriya it will be 70% rajas, 20% sattva, 10% tamas. In a Vaishya it will be again 60% rajas, 20% or 10% sattva, 30% tamas. In a Shudra, it will be predominantly tamas, 40 to 50% tamas, little more rajas and sattva. So, based on the guna, the quality of the mind, and based on karma, see that karma must follow guna, that is important. Even in this shloka, you will see Bhagavan said guna karma vibhagasha. He didn't say karma and guna vibhagasha. So, if a person has so much of sattva, the karma also must be appropriate to that. That karma must be, so the person must choose the field which is more thinking oriented. So that person has that skill of thinking. Somebody has the skill of administration, somebody has the skill of resource management, somebody has the skill of execution. So based on the guna is the karma. And can we say that no, everybody is equal? Can we ever give the job of executor? If you give the executor the job of sit, think and make the policies, it will not work. To make that sattva guna is required. Holistic vision is required. Capacity to look ahead is required. A person does not have that quality, it does not mean that that person is any lesser. So it is a functional division based on guna and karma. Unfortunately, this division became by birth, by janma. It is not by janma. So the son of a Brahman need not be a Brahman. And it is nothing like Brahman is a superior and the Shudra is inferior. All that is the human mind's degeneration. Any system by itself, if you see, democracy, which is the best way to govern a country, if you ask, can we say any one particular answer? We say democracy is the best way to govern the country. Today, where is democracy? Hardly you will find. For the namesake, there is democracy. There is autocracy going on. Does that mean democracy is bad? Democracy as a system is not wrong. But if it is not followed, then there is a big problem. Same way here he says that in this whole world, this classification is done based on guna and karma. So how do I relate with human being? As a human being, everybody deserves love, respect, transparency, honesty, all that. There cannot be any distinction. But on the basis of guna and karma, there has to be a distinction. Only then one will be successful. And even it is good for that person. If you put that person who is very, very rajasic, tell him go to the forest and meditate. Is it good for that person? Not at all. The person is suffocated. That's what Arjuna wanted to do. Go away and then be in the forest. Bhagavan said, no, you cannot do that. You are Kshatriya, you have that hot-bloodedness and you be here. And this is the right opportunity that you have to exhaust your karma. So if the person remains in one's own swadharma, based on one's guna, one should choose the karma. That is called as one's swadharma. Today we do career counseling. Why do we send our children for career counseling? So many psychological tests and all that which are done to find out what is the temperament of this child. And appropriate to that temperament, the field has to be chosen. In the earlier days, this was the guna system. The three gunas are used to find out who is a which combination, and based on that guna, choose the karma, and that becomes the swadharma of that person. To be in that swadharma is the first duty of that individual. There is nothing wrong in any of the four castes. None of them are lower or higher. If one thinks that way, psychologically, then that person is misunderstanding. Being in one's own swadharma, when action is done, dedicating it to the Lord, whichever group one belongs to, one will discover the same divine truth. So it is not that only Brahman has the authority to study the Veda and only Brahman will get realization. No, no, no. We saw in the beginning of 4th chapter itself that this knowledge was given to whom? To Kshatriyas. To Manu and Ikshvaku, and these Kshatriyas, they passed on this knowledge. So it is not that only Brahmanas are the supreme category. One who understands this system very well. In one way, one who has translated this word Varna into caste is a good translation also. Why? Because it is like how you cast the metal. To make an idol, the molten metal is cast into, it is put into a cast. And in whichever cast that molten metal is put, it will take the shape of that cast. So these are 4 molds: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. 4 molds. A human mind as though is poured into each of these. And we will take that particular form. Hence you see in our culture there are people who have realized from every group. It is not that only Brahmins have realized the absolute truth. From every group there are, so potter, Gora Kumar was a potter, Kabir was a weaver, Mirabai, she was a Kshatrani. So many, even Vishwamitra, he was a king and then he transformed into a rishi. So this division by time became inappropriate, but otherwise it is a very, very functional division and it is necessary to achieve success in different aspects of life. So he says, Tasya kartaram apimam, though I am the creator of this, viddhi akartaram avyayam, yet know me to be not the doer of all this. Because from the absolute standpoint, Bhagavan does not do anything. He is like the petrol in the car which doesn't do anything. The driver drives and takes the car wherever. Petrol is just present. In the presence of the petrol, everything happens. Same way the Lord is present. From absolute standpoint, there is no world also. But if at all we see the world, then yes, as Ishvara, He only created the whole world and He only created this 4-fold division. What we have done is we have made it birth-wise, so we have exploited that system. And remember one more thing, that it is not the Brahman only who was exploited. At different points in time in the society, different groups have exploited this caste system. And another thing to understand is this, which we saw yesterday, that human mind works in division. So if you remove this system, is it not that in other cultures where the system is not there, there also there is a division or not? Same, on the basis of color of the skin, on the basis of so many external factors, only the division is done. Wherever you will see, there will be tremendous amount of division. That's the problem of human mind. That's not the problem of the system. So we always say that caste system is not bad. Casteism is bad. If I get into casteism and start discriminating on basis of the birth, then there is a problem. And how contradictory we live, you just think about it. Hinduism, when we say caste system is a blot, what is reservation? Is reservation not based on the birth? That if you are born in a Muslim community, if you are born in a Hindu community, if you are born in a backward tribal community, all the reservations are based on what? Birth only. It should be based on merit. So that question always has to be understood very clearly, that meritocracy, that on the basis of merit, when I am giving certain benefits or perks or sacking somebody who is not fitting that particular profile, there is no psychological discrimination involved. It's a functional division which has to be done. If you don't find somebody appropriate for a particular job and that person is replaced with somebody else, there is nothing psychological about it. But what is important in that is, activity wise we create the division based on the temperament. Attitude wise, one should not create division. That person deserves the same love as anybody else deserves, same respect, same dignity. Nobody is lesser or greater because the performance is less or not appropriate. There the psychological division should not happen. There one treats a person with same dignity as any other human being one would have treated. One cannot do psychological discrimination there. So this system, if we understand clearly, we will know that this was a very scientific system and we will not be ashamed of what this system is. That the system has degenerated is not the problem of the system, that's the problem of the human mind. You had a question?
Swami was saying as a Karna, but he constantly was told you are a Suputra. So why was he not given an opportunity if he showed the skills?
That's why that system is not appropriate. The Mahabharata time, the system already declined. That's why Krishna is reviving that, saying it is not based on guna and karma. It is not based on janma. It is based only on guna and karma. Krishna did not approve of that system at all. And it is actually wrong.
Because you actually feel sorry for him
Yeah.
at the end of it. That
Correct. No doubt in that. That system is not appropriate.
Swamiji, one of the root causes of this division is lack of self-love and insecurity. That's why these people create it, and then it takes too much effort to, as you mentioned yesterday, get everything together. So, how would you suggest?
That's where the vision of oneness, something which one loves greater than oneself. The root cause of that insecurity is selfishness, right?
Yeah.
Selfishness creates insecurity, that creates the division. So, selfishness can go only if there is love for something higher. And nobody is taught that love for the higher. No? What is higher in one's life? Each and every fellow is taught that it is a bad world out there, it is cutthroat competition, you have to survive, you have to make your mark, don't bother. Spiritual realm says live and let live. Material realm says kill or get killed. Now that is where the system is. Now how to... So that's the reason why that whole change has to happen, what we spoke yesterday. It cannot be one part of the society or one section of the society only changes. Education has to change, the outlook of people has to change, things have to change together. It can't be just isolated change. It can begin that way, possibly, but it has to percolate to all areas of the society.
So in today's world, in a modern context, can one really, is this practical to follow the four varnas?
100%. By guna and karma, we are doing it or not? Temperament are you not finding out of the children?
Yes, but to label this one's son is this, but this one's daughter is this, but you are child.
You are anyway labeling.
Is it?
You are not labeling as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. You are labeling him as he is a scientist, he is a businessman, he is a worker, he is a leader, he is a MD. Is that not a label? See, the label has no problem. Please remember that. You remove one label, you will put another label. Human mind cannot live without label. Problem is the psychological distinction created because of the label. And tell me, is there not that kind of a distinction in our mind today? Do you treat that maid servant and their children with the same human dignity as you would treat somebody else who is an elite class society person's child? I am talking about dignity, psychological dignity. I am not talking about the things that you give them or the relationship in terms of... I am not saying the children of the maid servant and the children of the elite class society should all be together. Not practical. But what is the human dignity? Does that child not deserve the same love and dignity as any other child across the world will deserve? But we don't do that. We distinguish. I'll tell you, I know one place. I won't name that place. In that place, there are two different boards of children. One is a domestic board, one is an international board. In the same school. And the cafeteria of the school was such that they both will come at the same time to eat in the same place. And do you know the objection that parents raised? Parents said that how can those children come and sit and eat with our children? Now tell me, where is the caste system not here? That is caste system. Why can't the child of a SSC board student, SSC board sit there in the same cafeteria as this child. What is wrong? He is a human, he is a human. They are eating food, nothing else they are doing. No. They may create other issues to cover up their psychological discrimination, saying no, they may steal something, they may take away something, all that is cover up. Basic point is psychologically you don't want the child to mix with that particular child. Why do you not want them to mix? Because you think that this kind of society and thought process is different, that kind of society and thought process is different, right? Now, is that not distinction? Even if you say psychologically that these children must be different because they belong to a different class of society and they belong to a different class of society, as a human they both are same or not? Where does humanity go? That basic dignity one has forgotten there. And then in the name of just Hinduism, caste system is all hypocrisy of human mind actually. And this has existed throughout the ages. Even if caste system was not there, you see where all caste system is not there. Is there not such a discrimination existing? How much racial discrimination has happened across the world? How many people have suffered because of that? Unnecessary. Just on the basis of the color of the skin, somebody is inferior and somebody is superior. Just pigmentation of the skin, nothing else. So, what is necessary for us is to ensure that we treat our attitude towards people is the same. But activity wise, one must create that distinction, otherwise it is not possible to be successful. One cannot achieve results. And it is not good for that individual also, one who goes into parakarma. So now, this is a speciality of the karma of the Lord. That though he is the doer, he is not the doer. Janma of the Lord's speciality is though he is unborn, yet he is born. Whoever knows this very clearly will become free. Why? Because one will know that I am that Lord who is one, where there is no division. I am not the doer, I am not the enjoyer, I am not even born. I am that self. That will be the clarity that the person has and the person will be free. Now, going ahead in this 4th chapter, there are 12 different types of yajnas which are given. Meaning 12 different types of spiritual practices or practical methods to integrate the personality. They are given in this chapter. And all these, when some people ask, no, tell us something to do. Now I am giving you 12 things to do. Bhagavan says, no. Gita is not only theory, Gita is a lot of practice. And people think Gita is theory, intellectual knowledge, and for practice we have to go somewhere. Everything is there in the Gita. Meditation is also there. Every kind of practice is there in the Gita which is necessary for human being to evolve. You just open the book and see where it is and start practicing, including diet, what to eat, what not to eat. That much practical knowledge is there in the Gita. In the 17th chapter you will find. So, coming to this now, verse number 25. Now 1 minute, before we go to 25, 24 is the vision which one has to achieve, the goal of life that one has to achieve, that sense of oneness, what the Lord spoke about earlier, that he speaks about in this verse, and a very famous verse which we chant before we eat the food. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaivate gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. This is Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi. So this is the concept of a yajna, where in a ritual, fire ritual, oblations are offered, a deity is invoked, and blessings are attained. So he says this is a Brahma yajna, which means actually meditation. first we'll understand the literal meaning. So he says Brahma Arpanam, the ladle with which the offering is made, the ghee is poured. He says that ladle is Brahman. Brahma Havihi, the oblation which is held in the hand and that is offered. He says Brahman is that Havi also. Brahma Agnav, the fire into which it is offered, that also is Brahman. Brahmana Hutam, the deity to whom it is dedicated, that also is Brahman. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam. Brahmana Hutam meaning it is consumed. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam meaning to the deity to whom it reaches, that offering is Brahman. Brahma karma samadhina, the very action it also is Brahman and it will lead that person to the state of Brahman. So now what does this mean? This means that what he spoke about, Dharma Samsthapana, as the vision of oneness, that all this which we see actually is a manifestation of the divine. Because if we believe that the world manifested from the Lord, from the cause the effect manifests. So effect is nothing but the cause itself in another form. The mud pot comes from the mud. So that mud pot is nothing but mud itself in another form. The gold ornaments come from the gold. So the effect is nothing but cause itself in another form. In the same way, when we see this whole universe, it is an infinite universe. From where did this universe manifest? From that which is infinite. That's why we say Purna Madaha, Purna Midam. Purna Madaha means that is infinite and this also is infinite. Purna Mudachyate. From that which is infinite, this which is infinite has manifested. Now can there be two infinity? There cannot be two infinity. There infinity is only one. So when we say from infinity, infinity manifested, means what? That which is infinite only is appearing here as this infinite. It is not that infinity is separate from that, another infinity has come out. All this is nothing but the manifestation of that infinite only. Hence we say that the Lord did not create the world. In Vedanta we always say Bhagavan, God did not create the world, God manifested or appeared as the world. This whole universe is divine. So we are seeing only names and forms. So we see fire is separate, the ladle is separate, the offering is separate, deity is separate, because we see name and form. But essentially, they all are one. All the different types of waves in the ocean, big wave, small wave, medium wave, foam, bubble, lather, all that is nothing but manifestation of water. We may give different names because of different size and shape. Same way, one who is the wise person, though he is seeing the differences, knows that all this is the manifestation of one absolute truth. Why do we chant this at the time of food? To remind us that even in such a basic act as eating food, that act of eating food is not an act of sense enjoyment. At that level, when I am eating food, if I can apply this vision that the goal of life is to attain oneness, to have that vision of oneness that all this is divine is the purpose of life. So I am eating this food also is Brahman. The food is the oblation. The hand is the ladle. The fire inside me, that also is Brahman. A Lord only who is the fire inside me. Lord only has become food and manifested in front of me. The Lord only is the energy by which this hand is able to lift the food and put it and the body is able to digest. So the deity also is Bhagavan, the ladle also is Bhagavan, the offering also is Bhagavan, the fire also is Bhagavan, everything is divine. So no more one eats food only with that sense of bhoga, that is to enjoy the food. But along with that enjoyment, one has that vision that all this is divine. So one will eat in moderation, one will eat with that attitude of sadhana that eating also is a yajna. In these 12 types of yajna, the last one Bhagavan gives is that. And very good that he did last, ahara yajna. If he had given that first, man would not proceed ahead after that. कौन से टाइप का खाना खाना चाहिए, कितने बजे खाना चाहिए, कितना खाना चाहिए, and you tell them everything. At the end of it, they will say how they cannot follow it. That is the problem. ये तो नहीं हो सकता, अभी आई एम तो वर्किंग एंड दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल, एंड फ्रूट कहाँ से खाते रहेंगे हर रोज, इतना सारा फ्रूट खाएंगे तो एनर्जी कहाँ से आएगी, आई कैन कीप ईटिंग फ्रूट द होल डे. अरे बाबा. So भगवान से human being will not move ahead beyond food, so उसको last में रखो. Let them know that this act of eating food also is divine act. Don't eat with that bhavana that I am enjoying the sense of it. Do you know the definition of food? Annam means what? It means that which a human being eats and which finally eats the human being. That is called as annam. Adyate atticha bhutani. That which is eaten by a human being and which actually eats the human being. So if you eat the pizza, don't just think that you are eating the pizza. Pizza is also telling you, I am going to eat you up. It is actually going to consume your energy. And slowly, not only energy you will get when it is assimilated and digested and all that. But is it not that it takes a person towards... More people die out of overeating than out of starvation. So who killed? And you see the statistics, it will show you. More people die out of overeating than out of starvation and poverty. So adyate aticha bhutani, that which eats people is called as food. So the act of eating is not an act of enjoyment. The act of eating is a divine act. That may I eat this food. Lord himself has manifested in front of me as the food. And it is being eaten by the Lord. Imagine the bhavana that the person has. If one does this, this is called ahara shuddhi also. Whichever type of emotion is involved behind it, whatever type of money is involved to cook that food, so many different types of things go behind the food and all that influences the mind. How to purify all that? This bhavana is enough. Saying that this food is divine, is the act of eating also is divine. May this food nourish the body so that I can attain that divinity. That is the vision that one must have. So this applies not only in food, in every aspect of life. Eating, walking, talking, everything is a yajna where we are offering away the selfishness, remembering the Lord. Now, to realize this vision of oneness, our personality has to be tuned. So 12 different types of spiritual practices are given now, which one has to put effort to do. And when we put that effort, the personality is ready, it is integrated to realize this vision of oneness. So now let us see. So we have given this chart to you. So the name of the yajna is there, and just as in a yajna there is an offering done. What is the fire, what is the offering, and what is the result? So first yajna in 25th shloka says, Daivameva pare yajnam yogina paryupasate. Now these 12 types of yajnas are practiced by different yogis. Remember, yogi here doesn't mean somebody who is, just a full-time renunciate. Yogi here means anybody who is trying to integrate the personality, unite the personality is called as a yogi. So he says, Daiva meva pare yajnam yoginam paryupasate. So first yajna is Daiva yajna. That is the traditional meaning of a yajna, where a havan is done, devta is invoked, and the blessings are got. That is one meaning. So if somebody wants rain, then you invoke the Indra devta. Somebody wants progeny, invoke some deity, and invoke wealth if you want, invoke the deity of wealth, Kuber. You want the health, then Dhanvantari, like that. So they invoke. In today's context, the Deva Yajna means all the puja, upasana that we do, the form that we spoke about, that have a form, build a relationship and worship the Lord through the form. So basically Deva Yajna means all the spiritual disciplines that we follow to connect with the divine. through a puja, through a japa, through bhajan, through kirtan, they all are called as Daiva Yajna. So in a day, at least a few moments we must spend connecting with the divine. That Lord who has blessed us with so many things. How do I even tune up with that Lord? And if I say, no, I don't have 5-10 minutes to spend for the Lord, who has blessed me with everything the whole day I am doing, and that is ingratitude. So Daiva Yajna. Deva Yajna is this, oblation. So if this Deva Yajna is done with a Sakama Bhavana, so even if you do a puja, there is a sankalpa that one takes, or a japa, or a kirtan. And one takes a sankalpa saying that I am doing this for this result. That is called as Sakam Puja. That bless me with this, bless me with that. And there is nothing wrong in that. So if one does it with that bhavana that I want specific result, one will be blessed with that specific result. In the earlier shloka in 4th chapter, Bhagavan said that Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamya. I will bless that person in whichever way that person comes to me. Whatever that person desires, I will bless that person with that. Timing of that blessing sometimes varies. That the Lord knows what is the best for us. But if it is done without any specific demand, done out of love for the Lord, to express the gratitude, then the person is blessed with purity of mind. The person is blessed with devotion. So Daiva Yajna is that every day spend a little time tuning up with the divine. Then he says, Brahmagnava pare yajnam yajnena yopa juhvati. That Brahma Yajna that we spoke about earlier, the vision of oneness, these great yogis in the seat of meditation, what is their offering? They offer the ego. What is the fire? The fire is Brahman. So contemplating on that which is one, that I am not this body, mind, intellect, but I am that one supreme self, which enlivens this. They drop the ego. And what is the result? They attain oneness with that Brahman, they become free. Then he says, Shrotradi Indriyanyanye Sanyamagnishu Jugvati, verse number 26. There he says that the senses, this is called as Sanyama Yajna, the senses of knowledge, which is the capacity to seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, those capacities. So this yajna is the yajna of controlling the senses of knowledge. Sanyamagnishu Jugvati, meaning through the senses of knowledge, one does not indulge in just any sense object. One controls the senses. Controls the mind actually. Because senses are internal. Eyes are the sense organ. Seeing is the sense faculty. That seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, that is there in our mind. So, not having desire to see something which is not conducive, to eat something which is not good, to speak something which is not appropriate, to control that mind, that is this Sanyam Yajna. So the fire is the fire of self-control, where one controls the mind, controls the thoughts. So one prevents whatever is not conducive. If you see even in a yajna or even in a puja, actually speaking one cannot use any dravya. One has to purify that dravya. One has to ensure that it is sanctified. The dravya has to get sanctified. So whether it is the flowers that are offered or the fruits or the naivedya or the ghee or whatever it is, even before the puja, main puja begins, one takes some water and chants a mantra, apavitra pavitro va sarvavasthangato va yasmare pundarekaksham sabhahyabhyantara shuchihi, and one sprinkles it. So the material has to get purified. In the same way, our senses are the fire. Anything that is to be offered in it, just anything cannot be offered. What it means, what is prohibited should not be taken. What is permitted should be taken. And what is prohibited and what is permitted goes according to the stage of one's life. Certain pleasures are not allowed in a brahmacharya ashram. They are permitted in the grihastha ashram. Again, they are not allowed in vanaprastha and sannyas. So there are certain things which one can do only in certain stage of life. one should focus on those at that time, and that is permitted. So he says that this is type of a yajna. So one should know what is not good for my body. I won't go into the detail of this sense control because we have done that in the second chapter earlier. And how to live in that self-control. So this is mind control where the desires are controlled, and second is indriya yajna where the sense objects are controlled. So the sense objects are not allowed to enter the sense organs. So I don't see something which is harmful. Earlier, I control the desire to see something which is tempting me but which is not good. In this, I actually control the sense object from entering. So I don't see. So if something inappropriate comes in front of me, block the senses. So I don't allow that sense object to come into the sense organ. That is sense control. One is desire control, another is the sense control. So that is, in Vedanta we call that as Shama and Dama. Shama means the mind control. So if I am feeling tempted, something fried I should eat. To control that desire is called mind control. And actually somebody brings pakoda in front of me. I say, no, I am not going to eat this, it's not good for me. Then that is called sense control. Shama is sense control, Dhamma is mind control. Now tell me, is this not practical? There are enough and more things which are practical. Problem is our will is not there. ये तो मुश्किल है स्वामी, ये नहीं हो सकता, कुछ और बताइए. Difficulty comes there. But Bhagavan is compassionate. He says, ये नहीं हो सकता तो ये नहीं हो सकता तो ये. 12 options he has given us. You just look at his compassion. So now he says, 27th one, he says, Sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani chapare. Now he says, what about sense organs of action? Sense organs of knowledge we have controlled. What about sense organs of action? So the grasping is a sense organ of action. Through the hands we grasp. Through the leg we move. Through the tongue and the mouth we speak. And then we reproduce and evacuate. These are 5 organs of action. And the pranas, the vital force in the body. This prana and the organ of action, how to control them? So he says, Sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma sanyama yogagnav juvvati jnana deepite. These yogis, they perform the yajna called Atma Sanyam Yajna. So they control these senses and the pranas. What do they do? Through right understanding, Jnana Deepite, about the purpose of life, about what should be achieved, what is right and what is wrong. And they engage their senses of action only in that which is right. So if one should not go to inappropriate places, one will not go. And they will use it only for the right things. So feet must be used to go to sattvic places, to go to the temple, to go to the place of work which is one's own duty. So using the senses of action for that which is good and conducive. And that which is not good, one should not go. One should not speak things which are hurtful, harmful. Control them. How to control? Through right understanding. Not simply through willpower. Jnana Deepite is a very beautiful expression. Jnana Deepite. Through right understanding that this is not going to lead to any temporary pleasure it may give, but long term it is misery only. It is not suppression, it is sublimation. Jnana Deepite. And also whatever one indulges through the senses, one does it in moderation. So in that particular yajna, one or two things you can add. In that 5th yajna, you can add in the offering, word sense is written, you add one S. Senses and organs of action plus the pranas. Our pranas are the vital force by which it is the fuel which is required to do any action. It is not air. Prana is a vital energy. And this vital energy is available in the whole world in all the 5 elements. It's not only in the air. Grossest form of prana is available in the food that we eat. In water that we drink, subtler prana. In the fire, that is sunlight we get exposed to, there is prana. In the air there is prana. And then in the space also there is prana. So when I do upvas, when I expose myself to sunlight, when I drink appropriate amount of water, when I do deep breathing, and when I eat right amount of food, through all this I am taking in the prana. That prana is the vital energy of the body, not only required to do the actions of the body, but a lot of pranic energy goes in thinking and in meditation. So yogis, they conserve the pranic energy. Speaking, carnal pleasure is the first and the most drainful activity, and then is the speaking. These yogis, they control. So he says, through right understanding they control the sense organs of action. And it's not easy to control. Most difficult vow to keep up ever is the vow of celibacy, brahmacharya. Very difficult to keep. But these yogis, they do that. They, through the right understanding of the higher aspect of life, higher purpose of life, they turn the pranic energy upwards. So they are called as Urdhva Reta yogis. They turn the energy upward. So right understanding and moderation. You can add the word moderation there. For grahasthis, the concept of brahmacharya is moderation. So through moderation in everything, in walking, talking, eating, sleeping, in everything there has to be moderation. Also one more change you can make in line number 3, offering we have written senses, no? So just make it more clear by writing of knowledge, senses of knowledge. So in number 3 it is senses of knowledge, in number 5 it is senses of action. And in number 4, the fire, change that self-control to sense organs. There's a mistake there. Number 4, fire also. Number 3, fire is self-control. Number 4, fire should be sense organs. So Atma Sanyama Yoga is to control the senses of action and the the pranas. Then he says, Dravya yajnas tapo yajnaha yoga yajnas tatha pari. Dravya yajna is the dan that one does. So when one does dan, if it is done with the bhavana of selflessness, of sharing, of gratitude, that Bhagavan has blessed me with abundance and I am sharing it, that selflessness brings that purity of the mind and detachment. There is a great joy in giving. One experiences that joy. And dan also is very important there. In the 17th chapter, Bhagavan gives 3 types of dan: sattvic dan, rajasic dan, tamasic dan. Details you will find there, but he says, at the right time, at the right place, to the right person or the right cause, one has to give the dan. Then it is called sattvic dan. So in the Shastra it is even said, when you go to a Tirtha Sthan, the dan given in a Tirtha Sthan, dan given during the eclipse time, dan given during the festival time, dan done after doing an anushthan, all these have a lot of punya. And the person has given dan to somebody, but when it is done with this bhav of selflessness and genuine sharing, the punya that person gets, it's not that the person is losing. One is giving dravya to get punya. And based on that bhavana, that punya multiplies also. And one beautiful point I was told, if you give dan to an enlightened master, it is like giving dan to the whole world. Because he is one with that whole world. So if you feed an enlightened master, it is like doing annadan to the entire world. Did not Draupadi do that? That one grain of rice which was left in that Akshay Patra, Krishna Bhagavan said, is there even one grain? Then give it to me. And she found one grain was there. Krishna Bhagavan took, and all those Durvasa Muni and those rishis who were there, they all felt very satisfied to pay Bhargava. That's the beauty of dhan when it is done to an enlightened person. So Dravya Yajna, when a person does dhan regularly, one cultivates a lot of detachment, because the principle is very simple. When I give something, I assert my independence over it. When I cling and hold on, I don't want to give, I am possessed by it. I am not independent. So Dravya Yajna is to give. Then Tapo Yajna, one must do some austerity. So in Tapo Yajna, one gives up one's comfort zone. Tapas means to evolve. Anything done to break free from comfort zone and to evolve, that is called as tapas. So through willpower and love, you can add plus love with willpower there. Where there is willpower and love together, that tapas will happen consistently. Only willpower, tapas will not be consistent. Example, if I want to get up early in the morning and go for the jog, consistency will come if I start loving that jogging. Only willpower, how many days? Maybe 10 days, 15 days, even 21 days you may do. If you don't start loving it by the 21st day, it will stop. So with willpower. So what do I do to break out of my comfort zone, my likes and dislikes? That is called as tapas. And tapas also is of different types. In the 17th chapter again you will find tapas of the body, tapas of the mind, tapas of the speech. So one must do some tapas in life. We always say that tapas destroys tamas. If there is tamas in life, the only way to get out of tamas is do some tapas. Get burnt. Means in the fire of tapas, not literally get burnt. In that fire of tapas, burn. Get out of that sluggishness, tamasic, lazy, lethargic nature. So that is tapas, one can do. And you know the two tapas, just like wow, I said which vrata is most difficult, like that which tapas is very difficult. Concentration and consistency, these are two types of tapas which are most difficult to do. To do anything with full concentration itself is tapas. And to be consistent in the performance of my duty, that is another tapas. Day after day to keep on doing the duty with that bhavana that I am doing it as my duty and dedicating it to the Lord. Consistently to do that duty. That itself is tapas. This is why one says that every day you must do this, every day you must go for a jog, every day you must pray, every day you must live in self-control. All those rules are made, but the logic behind that is this, that if there is tapas, there will be discipline in life, that person will grow. Then comes Yoga Yajna. What is Yoga Yajna? This is the practice of Ashtanga Yoga. So Yama, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi. Those who practice Ashtanga Yoga, they discipline their body and their mind through this path of yoga. So there, please remove that word emotion and write there Ashtanga Yoga. And remove devotion, write discipline. And remove love of God and write integration. Yoga brings integration in the personality. Integration. Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga is a science by itself. Some people call it, so it is Patanjali also, Patanjali Yoga also it is called. Some people call it as Hatha Yoga. So people generally translate Hatha as force. The Hatha is not force. In Yoga Shastra, Ha is symbolic of the Surya Nadi and Tha is symbolic of Chandra Nadi. There are 3 nadis in our body. Not 3, there are many nadis in the body. The 3 are the main one. Surya Nadi, Chandra Nadi, and the between is called the Sushumna. This Surya and Chandra, Ida, Pingala and Sushumna, that is another classification. So left, I forget now which is which. Surya is left or right, I forgot now. Which is Chandra? This. This is Chandra and this is Surya. So this Surya and Chandra Nadi has to be balanced. Then that Kundalini will slowly awaken and go up the track of the Sushumna, and it goes through 7 chakras and it will reach the Sahasrara. Then a person is liberated. So that's a disciplining of the body. That's why it's called Hatha Yoga. It's not about force कि will power लगा के तोड़ मरोड़ के कैसे भी शरीर को ऐसे रखो किसी posture में. It is not like that. It is understanding the science how the body is made. 72,000 plus nadis are there in the body, and these nadis have prana shakti through them, going through them. They are not nerves, please. Pranic energy is different from oxygen and air, and nadis are different from nerves.
They have pulsations.
You can feel it like pulsation. They are there in the subtle body and they manifest on the gross body. So anyway, that's a separate path. So those who practice that yoga, every day one who tries to discipline the body, in that yoga, body is disciplined, prana is disciplined, then mind is disciplined. All the three together. It is not only about asana. Today the yoga is in a pitiable condition actually. Real yoga is gone. What is the definition of yoga? Sthiram Sukham Asanam. One of the sutras is that Sthiram Sukham Asanam. You be in that posture for some time and be still. Stillness of the body will lead to stillness of the mind. Today we want to do everything fast, fatafat. So 50 Surya Namaskars in half an hour. Disaster it is. It is not called yoga. It is called, I don't know what to call it. It is destruction of yoga. It is yoga actually, not yoga. Aesthetic, power yoga, hot yoga, Vikram yoga, my God, what all in the name of yoga. It is a fabulous science to still. You tell somebody to remain in a posture for 3 minutes, no? That person says, what, 3 minutes? What will I do in 3 minutes? Because impatience is so much. Are you remain in 3 minutes? No, tell me something which I should do. I need to burn. What burn? Remain in that posture for 3 minutes and you see how much of your fat burns. People think that yoga is not, what is that, cardio and all that. I should run for it and I should jog and aerobic and some Zumba and this, that, something one keeps doing. And then do what is that, hybrid. Put on the music of aerobic and do yoga. And in between start doing Zumba. What is khichdi? One makes a khichdi only. Body says, "Arey mujhe bachao." What is happening to us? You just think. You tell that person, take 5 breaths, deep breaths, and do Kapalbhati properly. How is the deep breath? Over. 5 breaths ho gaya. Arey breathe deeply, slowly and steadily and then relax. No. Fat. Yoga is not like that. Yoga is to reduce the speed of thinking itself. And Shavasana is the most difficult asana to do. One has to be in that dead posture, meaning no thought. One does all this kind of nonsense after yoga and then says, "Abhi relax karenge, so jayenge." That is not yoga, Baba. If you are getting tired, please understand it is not yoga. Full stop. Yoga is not supposed to tire me. Yoga is supposed to energize. Anyway, I won't tell more about yoga. There are enough people in the world who are telling anyway. Swadhyaya Yajna is to study regularly and to transform the intellectual conviction. Very important because hardly anybody pays attention. See, other types of yajnas people do. But this Swadhyaya Yajna is very less. The reason why we suffer is because we don't do this yajna. The fire is the spiritual thoughts, in which the worldly thoughts, the ignorance, the false ideas, they all are thrown away. Swadhyaya can be recitation, Swadhyaya can be reading a scripture. So if I am doing Parayan, Sundarkand Parayan or Vedic Mantras Parayan or any Shlokas Parayan, Gita Parayan, that is one type of Swadhyaya. Another type of Swadhyaya is keep doing Japa, that is Japa also is Swadhyaya. Then read the scripture like what we are doing right now is Swadhyaya. We are studying the scripture, trying to understand, change our thought process. And ultimately all this should lead me to understand my own self. So if I start studying myself, that is called Swa Adhyayan. So I start understanding what is my mind, how does it work, what are its likes and dislikes, how to tune this mind, all that. That is called Swadhyaya Yajna. So you can add in this, the result, add one word called clarity. One will get Shraddha in the existence of the higher by study. One will also get clarity of thinking. And that clarity transforms our conviction. So that is Swadhyaya Yajna. And Jnana Yajna. Having studied, Jnana Yajna is to share that with other people. So in Jnana Yajna, in that column you write, share scriptural knowledge. Offer your ignorance in the fire of knowledge. That's why Gurudev used to call all these kind of sessions as Jnana Yajna. Gita Jnana Yajna. What is the result? Result is the knowledge of the truth. And you can add one more, revival of culture. Culture is revived when Jnana Yajnas are done. People get to know the glory of their own culture. This essence of our culture is knowledge of Vedanta. They must know that. So if I call some 10 people and I share what I know, then I am doing Jnana Yajna. Or if I am a Sevika, I am taking a Balvihar class, then I am doing a Jnana Yajna. Or through a play, if I am creating a play and then I am conveying the message through a play or through a dance or through a cultural program or through a trek. There are very many ways to share knowledge. All of them are included in Jnana Yajna. In fact, this is our duty. In the Taittiriya Upanishad it is said more than 20 times it is said Swadhyaya Pravachanabhyam Na Pramaditavyam. Don't postpone your Swadhyaya and Pravachan. Pravachan there means Jnana Yajna. To share. Don't postpone sharing this knowledge. Then the last two are 29th one is the Pranayam Yajna. Apane juvvati pranam prane panam tatha pare. Pranapana gati rudva pranayama parayana. These are the people who do pranayam. Pranayam also is beautiful exercise. You know pranayam what it is? Actually the way it is supposed to be done. So when one takes a deep breath, that is purak, then you hold the breath. That is called Antakumbhak. At that time when one holds the breath, one is supposed to chant the mantra. Then exhales the breath. Again hold the breath. That is called Bahishkumbhak. Exhale is called Rechak. Purak, Antarkumbhak, Rechak, Bahishkumbhak. That is pranayam. So inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And in a specific ratio it is done. So you have to do it only with the teacher. So before that Nadi Shodhan and all that has to happen. Then one can do pranayam well. The beauty of pranayam is this. In meditation, the obstacle that we have which keeps our body, which keeps our attention on the body is the breathing. So when one holds the breath and chants the mantra, one has that time to get into samadhi. That's the reason why the breath is held. Not for physical reasons only. There are great yogis who take a breath in and for months they don't breathe out. Months. And they chant the mantra, get into samadhi, and they live in that state for months together. Medical science may not believe how that happens, but this is the power of the mind and the prana. Those who do prana upasana, they understand all that. Some of them, they don't even eat food, because food is only the grossest form of prana. They can live on just water, they can live only on sunlight. The prana upasaks are very different. So there are these yogis who do pranayama parayana. Pranayama is not just breath control, it is controlling all the physiological systems of the body in such a way that you rise above body identification. That's the purpose of pranayama. They do pranayama for the sake of breath power. That is a very small application of pranayama. So pranayama parayanaha. And then last one he comes to our favorite, which we find it very difficult to do still. Apare niyataharaha. Apare word is important. He says there are others who can't do all this, at least start with this. Niyataharaha. Control the diet. Pranan praneshu juhvati. So what is ahara yajna? To eat sattvic food and to drop the rajasic and tamasic food. That is called as ahara yajna. The Agni in our belly is Vaishwanar Agni. Bhagavan says, I am that Vaishwanar Agni. And Bhagavan is doing all the digestion and all that for us. Just like in a puja, we don't offer anything which is impure. How can we offer food which is stale, stinking, non-veg, bad? How can we offer that to the Lord? Bhagavan is sitting there in the stomach. Anything we eat, any combination, any time. Ahara yajna means fixed quantity at fixed time, first and foremost. Today doctors are saying all that or not? Eat us how much we measure. 1 cup of rice, half a cup of dal, half a chapati, 2 tomato slices. This has 5 calories, that has 2 calories, this is 10 calories, totally 30 calories. Oh my God. Bhagavan already said that before only, that eat fixed quantity at the fixed time, number 1. Number 2, control the quality. Slowly give up tamasic food, non-veg food, alcohol, very spicy rajasic food, kept overnight, stale food, tamasic, rajasic food. He says give up and regularly do upvas. Once in a month, Ekadashi, or whichever day you find. Now we do upvas for what? Detox the body, detox. Grandmother was doing happily with devotion and bhavana nicely. Automatically body was getting detoxed also. But भावना सब उड़ गई वो, वहाँ जाके वो डिटॉक्स का टॉक्सिन आ गया हमारे साथ. Why do you do fasting? Detox the body, detox. Nothing wrong, do fasting to detox, but don't limit fasting only to that. Upvas means, you know what happens in upvas? When we eat food, when the food goes into the body, the pranic energy goes downwards. When we don't eat food and we eat whatever fruits and all that, the pranic energy goes upwards. And such times when we chant the name of the Lord, mind will abide in that faster. More devotion also happens. And regularly when one does, one develops self-control. That attachment to food will go away. We will become aware of what are our attachments when we start doing fasting. The day we do fasting, that day only we will feel like eating pakoda, jalebi, samosa. Then we know, oh, this is my craving. So it's a very important discipline. So ahara yajna is that. These are 12 types of yajnas, and Bhagavan says that all these yajnas, those who are doing, he says, Sarve piyete yajna vidaha. All these people are the knowers of yajna. They are trying to live in self-control and remember the Lord and attain that divine vision of oneness. Yajna kshapita kalmashaha. All their agitations, sins and negativities will get destroyed. So yajna always helps us to evolve. So for today we will stop here. Next month when we meet, we are supposed to do 5th chapter, but I will take one session on the concluding part of this 4th chapter, because that Shraddha and Gyan, 2 very important aspects are there in this chapter, which we will take and then start the 5th chapter. The dates for the next month are